Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is me Khushi, and today we're going to be doing the fourth part of the Python tutorial. So let's just get into the video. So the first topic is code reusing. Now I'm going to explain this with a little example. Now first suppose you have a 15-line code and another one is a 5-line code. The output of both of them is the same. Now, which one are you going to use? Now, the obvious answer would be a 5-line one because it is shorter and it is easier to maintain. Because more the code longer, like longer the code is, the more confusing it sounds. So for this, we have the do not repeat yourself or dry principle. Now, what is this? We're going to see in the next one. So let's just look at it. Now, following the dry principle makes the code loop forever, bad and repetitive, easier to maintain. So easier to maintain is the correct answer. Now let's just look at the next one. Functions. Functions are a very important one because this is what everything uses. Now, what is a function? So a function is something that performs a particular task. But in informatical way, a function is something which consists of a word which is followed by a parenthesis. So here is the given example or the sentence we have told. So this is what functions are. So let's just look. The words in front of the parentheses are the function names and the comma separated values inside are the arguments. Now here I'm going to tell you how many arguments each of them has. So this one has only one argument because there is no comma separating them. This one has two arguments. This has again one. This has three because there are two commas and three values given. Now here, range, how many arguments are in this function? So there are three arguments as we can see because there are three values given in the parentheses. Now let's just look at the next one. There is a total of 8 lessons to complete in this video. Now functions. Now, in addition to using predefined functions, you can create your own functions using the diff statement. Now, what are predefined functions? Predefined functions are like print, range, string, etc. Now, this kind of function is something new. You can create it all by yourself, and this is what the main thing is. Now, here's this example. You can see that spam is printed thrice and then it is called. So these statements in the functions are executed only when the function is called, which means that only when you click the run button in a normal sense. Now the code block within every function starts with a colon. So it's very, very important to give a colon if you're starting a code block. So let's just look next. Now here we have to define a function which is not predefined. So we're going to do this and done. Now, you must define functions before they're called in the same way that you must assign the variables before using them so that you are just a little bit easier when you're using this and there is no error. Now, rearrange the code to say hi. So first we're declaring say hi, then the function code and the block. So it's wrong. Let's just see. Okay. So say hi is to end the statement. Let's just look at the next one. Function arguments. Now, all the functions definitions we have looked so far have been functions with zero arguments, which are called with empty parentheses. Now, in the previous one, as we saw, the say hi one as well, you saw that there was nothing in the parentheses, but now we're going to see the ones with parentheses. However, the most functions take parentheses, takes arguments. So here's an example. So word is what. Now here, predefined function, print with exclamation word. Now word is what the whole function is going to work with. Now if I have a hi in the parentheses in place of the word, then everything would have hi plus exclamation, spam plus exclamation, eggs plus exclamation, python plus exclamation, I'm sorry, and so on. So this is how the ones with arguments work. Now argument is defined inside the parentheses. Now, so define print double x, print double 3. Now let's just see how this one works. Okay, so guys, for this one, as we can see, the print double x, and then we have the double of whatever the value of x is. Now, as we can see in the parentheses, the value of x given over here is 3. So we're going to substitute x to 3, and 3 into 2 would be 6. So that's how this works. Now you can also define functions with more than one argument and separate them with commas. So here we have x and y. So we have to sum of them, and here the output would be 13 because the sum of 8 and 5 is 13. Now we're going to start with define, define, again colon and x into y. Now, function arguments can be used as variables inside the function definition. However, they cannot be referenced outside the function. So if you have having argument which is in the function, so you're not supposed to use it outside it. So here we can say x and x that is equal to 1, print x, and here the value of x would be 7. So the value of x after the code working would be 8. Now, the code will throw an error because a variable is defined inside the function and used outside. Yeah. Here, if you're printing, then it would be wrong. But if you're printing it above over here, then it would be only true. Like if you just remove this line. Technically, parameters are the variables in the function definition, and arguments are the values put into parameters when functions are called. So this is a definition for parameters and arguments. So we have def, it's going to print yes and else, print no. We forgot the comma, sorry. I meant the colon. Let's just look to the next lesson. Now, next we have returning from functions. Certain functions such as int or string, int is integer, or str, which is string, return a value that can be used later. To do this for your defined function, you can use a return statement. Now, as we saw that if you are using or declaring some value in the function, you're supposed to use it in there. But if you're having this return block, then you can just use it outside the function as well later on. So this is how it works. The return statement cannot be used outside of function definition. So you have to declare the return inside the function itself so that you can use the values later on. Now, if length of x is less than the length of y, it's going to print x, else it's going to print y. Okay. I'm sorry, it's going to return them. Return x and return y. Once you return a value from a function, it immediately stops being executed. Any code after the return statement will never happen. Now, actually, this format is wrong because the return thing is done before the function only, like it stops being executed where you have kept the return value. Now here, as we can see, the return total is printed over here or typed over here, which means that anything after that in the function would not be executed. Now it's going to print only 1 and 2. What is the highest number this function prints if called? It's going to print only 2 numbers because the return is stopping the printing of the next numbers. Let's see the next one. The next one is comments and doc strings. So comments are annotations which do not affect the code at all. Now, what are these for? These are actually for an easy understanding of the code. So we use an hashtag, which is just to say that this is a comment. Now, if I write anything over here, like anything literally, it is not going to affect the program. It is just going to be ignored by the computer. Now, here we have an example of a comment. Python does not have general purpose multi-line comments as do programming languages such as C. Now in Java, C, and any such language as such, we have multi-line comments which have comments which are more than a single line, like 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, etc. But Python does not have such lines, such comments. It's going to print, we're going to have a hashtag, and doc strings is documentation strings, and they serve a similar purpose to a comment, and they are designed to explain the code. However, they are more specific and have a different syntax. They are created by putting a multi-line string containing the explanation of the function below and the function's first line. So here you can have 3 quotations together, and then you can just explain the whole code in there. Now, unlike conventional comments, doc strings are retained throughout the runtime of the program, and this allows the programmer to inspect these comments at the runtime as well. So you can just actually comments are neglected, but these doc strings are not exactly neglected, but they're not printed at any cost. So let's just, can a doc string contain a multiple line of text? Yes, because code explanations are usually very, very lengthy. So you can just have multi-lines as well. So the next one is functions as objects. Now, although they are created different from normal variable, functions are just like any other kind of value. Now, as we can see here, also we are declaring values as arguments, and these can be assigned and reassigned to variables, as we have seen earlier. Now, the example above assigned function multiply to a variable operation. And now the name operation can also be used to call the function. So this is 2 ways which you can use a simple function. Now, this is a function which is to shout word, and it's going to return word with this exclamation mark, and speak will be equal to shout. So it is supposed to print shout because the word value is shout over here. So we're going to have shout. Now functions can also be used as arguments of other functions. Now you can just have, now as we saw earlier, we had x, y. Now you can just also have the function name, for example, x. For example, the function name could be my function and anything as such. So you can use them as arguments because earlier declared values are used. Now you can see the do twice takes a function as its argument and calls it inside the body. This is a function which is do twice. It's going to have define square x colon, and it's going to have square 42. That's how it works. Let's just look at the next one. Modules. Let's just have a look at what the modules are. Modules are pieces of code that other people have written to fulfill common tasks such as generations, random numbers, etc., and performing mathematical operations. Now we have the sum and such things. Now we have a printing random numbers, which is the most used one. Now, the basic way to use a module is to add import module name at the top of your code and then using the module name dot var to access the functions with the values with the name var in the module. Now I also have a random number generator program on my channel. So I'm going to have the link in the description box and you can make sure to watch it out. So here this prints a random integer and this is a module. The code uses a randint function defined in the random module to print 5 random numbers in the range of 1 to 6. Now here if you have the import random, which means that it's going to import the random module which is declared by someone else and you can use it in your code without any problems. Which module is being used in this code? Import math. So math is a module which is used because you're importing it. Now there is another kind of import that can be used if you only need certain functions from a module. So from module import variable. Now for example, here is a very good example which is from math import pi. Now pi. Now if you don't want all the things like pi, constants, graphs, etc., you can just import one concept from the whole module. And this is way better than using the normal ones because we don't want everything to work out. Here we have, you can just use multiple objects as well. Now if you have pi, square root, cube root, etc. Now here is the explanation of the code. So from math import square root and COS. So square root comma COS because the values are separated to comma. Trying to import a module that isn't available causes an import error. Now this is because if something does not exist, you cannot import it. Which error is caused by importing an unknown module? Import error. Now you can import a module or object under a different name using the as keyword. The main difference used here is that it has a longer and a confusing name. So better to use the normal ones without having many errors and confusions. Import math as m, math dot square root. I think this is going to give an error because we are importing m and they're using square root. So that's how this works. Let's just look to the next one. So there are 3 types of modules in Python, those you write with yourself, those you install, and those which are pre-installed in Python. Now the installed ones are which you import. Now the last type is called as a standard library of Python and it contains many useful ones, which is string, read, datetime, math, random, OS, multiprocessing, subprocess, socket, emails, etc. Now, the task can be done by the standard library, including string parsing, data serialization, testing, debugging, etc. This is the uses of it and many other which are from Python, which are created by the Python itself. Now, some of the modules in the standard library are written in Python and some are written in C. Most are available on all platforms, but some are on Windows and Unix specific. Many third-party Python modules are stored on the Python package index. Now, this is called the PIP. So this is not very much important concept, but we have to look out at it. So yeah, guys, that's all for today's video. If you like the video, just like, share, subscribe, comment down below, and press the notification bell. Thank you. Bye.